Welcome to the next lesson on cell biology. In this lesson we're going to be focusing on metabolism and what it is. Key words for this lesson are metabolism itself, catabolism, anabolism, nutrients, organic compounds and inorganic compounds. The pages that you need to read for this lesson are Chapter 3, pages 63 to 66. And this science understanding statement from the SCASA document captures everything that we need to know about this lesson. Alright, so first of all we need to establish what metabolism actually is. Now, metabolism isn't what the colloquial term is that we all think it is. It is actually the chemical reactions that take place within a cell. Okay, so that's all of those chemical reactions. And those reactions can either be breakdown or degradation reactions, and the proper name for them is catabolic reactions or catabolism. The build-up reactions, where we make larger molecules from smaller ones, is a synthesis reaction and is referred to as an anabolic reaction or anabolism. So how do we get these reactions to occur in the first place? Well, we need to feed our body and therefore our cells with nutrients. The definition of a nutrient is any substance found within food that is used for growth and repair of maintaining a healthy body. And you can see from this graphic down here that we have a range of nutrients. The 6 nutrients that you need to know are water, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Now, we are going to be exploring each of those nutrients in turn, but first of all we need to establish what is meant by the terms organic and inorganic. Again, there's a lot of misinformation around about these terms. So it's really important that we clear this up and have a firm understanding of what they actually mean. The term organic in relation to food and nutrients are molecules that have a carbon chain. They also contain a number of other atoms such as hydrogen, oxygen, sometimes nitrogen and sometimes sulfur. So when we say we eat organic food, what we really mean is that we eat food. Inorganic food, nutrients I should say, are compounds that are not based on the carbon chain. So these are nutrients that do not contain carbon atoms at all. So that would be things like water, vitamins and minerals. Okay, so the idea that you can eat inorganic food doesn't actually exist. Alright, so if we look at the organic compounds, we are going to look at carbohydrate first of all. We're going to start here because carbohydrates are really important to our body. Now, if you look at this cartoon structure of the molecular formula, you can see that carbohydrates have this ring structure in the middle. They have carbon atoms, hydrogen atoms, and oxygen atoms, and there aren't anything else, hence the name. Carbo for carbon, hyd for hydrogen, and we know that anything that ends in 8 in chemistry means oxygen. Okay, so the reason why carbohydrates are most important is because they are our primary source of energy in cells. The simplest form of carbohydrates are the sugars, and these can be single unit sugars, which we refer to as mono for single. They're monosaccharides. And examples of the monosaccharide sugars or the single sugars are glucose, fructose and galactose. You don't need to remember these names, you just need to understand that simple sugars are the most basic unit, and glucose is an example that we talk about quite a lot in biology. There are other simple sugars, these are double unit sugars, so the name double gets the prefix di. So these are disaccharide sugars. A common example is sucrose. That's the stuff that we buy at packets that you sprinkle onto your breakfast cereal or put in your tea and coffee. There's maltose and there's lactose. People that are lactose intolerant can't digest this sugar that's commonly found in milk products, which is why they have to stay away from it. But that is also a simple sugar. Now, small molecules such as these ones, the reason why they are the main energy source is because they can be transported across the cell membrane very easily, and they can be used as an energy source within the cell during aerobic respiration. Here I've just got a little cartoon picture to show you that the monosaccharides are the single unit sugars and the disaccharides are the double unit sugars. Alright, so the bigger group of carbohydrates that we look at are the polysaccharides. So the word poly, the prefix poly, means many. So it's lots and lots of carbohydrate single units joined together. And the reason why they're important is because they behave as storage molecules. Now, the human body can't store starch. That's what is found in plant tissue. But we store simple sugars as glycogen. And I'm going to show you a picture of that in just a moment. Glycogen we'll talk about later. That is stored in our skeletal muscle cells, and it's also stored in the liver. Starch is what we eat in potatoes, bread, pasta, and it's how plants store their excess energy within the body. Here we can see that although it's lots of small repeating units over and over again, plants will store it in this linear structure, which is starch. Glycogen, which is what humans store, and other animals, they have this branching structure. So it's a different structure, but the same principle applies. Alright, so we've talked about carbohydrates. That's our main energy store. We then go on to look at lipids. Now, lipids are a group of chemicals that contain fats and oils, and again, they have a very important job in the body. They are also an energy source. Lipids contain twice as much energy as carbohydrates, so they're very valuable to us, although we use them for other things as well as energy. The lipid molecule itself can be broken down into its two constituent parts. These are fatty acid chains and glycerol. Now, these fatty acid chains and glycerol can also be used in respiration to generate ATP. Lipid is really important for our body. It is used as the basis of sex hormones, and also it provides stability for the cell membrane in the form of cholesterol, and of course we know that it makes up most of the cell membrane. The type of lipid that we eat and that we store in our body is most commonly triglycerides. And I've got a little picture of them here. So you can see that we have one glycerol molecule and 3 fatty acids, and because it's 3, hence the name tri and then glyceride. If we were to look at the chemical structure of it, we can look at it here. You don't need to know this for your course, but I'm just showing you that again, it's made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, but the way that those atoms are arranged is different, and this is why we have a different product at the end. Last major nutrient group that I want to talk about are proteins. Now, proteins make up practically everything in our bodies. They're really important. Proteins are made of small building blocks called amino acids, which I have shown in these little coloured circles in these pictures here. Amino acids can join together in lots of different combinations. So depending on the combination that they join up to, they can make a long chain. Now, the bond between amino acids is known as a peptide bond, and we'll revisit that later on in the topic. And lots of amino acids joined together by many peptide bonds creates a polypeptide. eventually those polypeptides will fold up into a specific way and form specific protein molecules. Now, the proteins in our body are numerous, and they do lots of different things. The important one that we're going to be talking about in relation to metabolism are enzymes. Proteins make enzymes, which are chemicals made of protein that speed up the rate of reaction and allows life to occur. Proteins can also be used to make muscle, antibodies, and other structures in the body. If we desperately need them, proteins can also be used as an energy store, but they are only used when our carbohydrate and fat stores become completely used up. Okay, the final thing I want to talk about are the nucleic acids. This is our final organic nutrient group. We can see from this picture, it probably looks quite familiar to you, that the nucleic acids comprise DNA and RNA. So DNA stands for deoxy, that's the D, ribo, the R, nucleic acid, and that's the A. RNA, on the other hand, is simply ribonucleic acid. Now, these nucleotide structures, these single unit structures, these all join together to make either DNA or RNA. And you can see that DNA is a double twisted ladder, whereas RNA is a single twisted kind of half ladder, but we'll talk more about that in semester 2. The role of nucleic acids in the body is to transfer and hold genetic information. Okay, so we've just talked about the organic food groups or the nutrient groups that are important in the human body. We talked about carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids because they all contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Some of them additionally contain nitrogen and sulfur, whereas the inorganic nutrients are the vitamins, minerals, and water. Okay, that's the end of this short lesson. Please make sure that you complete these tasks before we move on to discuss the importance of enzymes in metabolism.